Lycanroc is a popular Pokemon from Sun and Moon. Starting as a Rockruff, this pupper with a penchant for stone can evolve into one of three forms of Lycanroc. Midday form is almost like the default Lycanroc. It's basically just a wolf with spiky stones. Dusk is rare and unique, and we'll get to that, but Midnight form, standing more upright, yet hunched, fur as crimson as freshly shed blood, glowing red, evil eyes, and stones in the shape of exposed ribs. This form is no mere wolf, it's a werewolf. But why Alola? You know, every Pokemon from Gen 6 onwards has a very good, distinct reason for being in the region it's introduced in. Even the ones you don't think fit do once you delve into it. But Hawaii isn't exactly known for its dense populations of wolves, let alone the very European idea of werewolf folklore, and yet there is still a speck of lycanthropy found in Hawaiian lore. So in this video, let's explain all of the origins of this peculiarly placed Pokemon. When it comes to Rockruff, the Dex has a lot to say. This Pokemon has lived with people since times long ago. It can sense when its trainer is in the dumps and will stick close by to its trainer's side. Rockruff can bond very strongly with its trainer. When it rubs the rocks on its neck against you, that's proof of its love for you. It's considered to be a good Pokemon for beginners because of its friendliness, but its disposition grows rougher as it grows up. Rockruff is very friendly when it's young. Its disposition becomes vicious once it matures, but it never forgets the kindness of its master. Rockruff is popular with the kids, it seems, as are puppies in real life. In fact, it being popular with trainers for being easy to train is such a deep part of this Pokemon's design. It features one of the only Pokedex pictures with a trainer actually in it. That is a core aspect of this mon. It was definitely designed to be a pet dog rather than a wild one then, which was already evident by its shorter muzzle and curly tail, traits not often found in wild dogs, but fairly common amongst domesticated breeds. Same with its floppy ears, though pretty much all puppies are born with that trait, but the rocks and fluff around its neck even resemble a little collar. While very few Pokemon are specifically just one thing, we can still try to find out which group of dogs fits Rockruff the best. And that answer is mainly the Spitz group, from Germany through Siberia. The Spitz has a small to medium build, a curled tail, a very fluffy mane, pointed ears that often flop, and it definitely helps that one popular variety of Spitz is named the Quichond, aka Wolf Spitz, due to its more wolf-like color and demeanor as it gets older. They, like other Spitz such as the Chow Chow and Japanese Akita, tend to be as easy to train as any other puppy at first, but as they get older, they start to show these wolf-like characteristics, such as independence, suspiciousness, and aggression towards unfamiliar humans and other dogs. They require a lot more training and socialization when they are puppies before they start developing these traits and become unmanageable in urban environments. Sound familiar? Plus, it also helps that another Spitz breed, the Pomeranian, is among the most popular dog breeds in Hawaii of all places. It's only beaten out by Golden Retrievers and Chihuahuas. Well, why? There is another dog, however, that would better explain why Rockruff is here in Alola. The now extinct Poi dog, which were similar in build to Spitz. While not so long extinct that it ever left fossils, Game Freak does have a thing with making Pokemon based on extinct things either be grass or rock type. But Poi dogs were brought to Hawaii around 800 years ago by ancient Polynesians as livestock. Yep, as a food source. Tasty, tasty dog meat. Here's a sketch from 1816 depicting them alongside pigs. They would eat the pig food alongside them to fatten up for the harvest. Think about the native animals on Hawaii and other specific islands. Can you think of any that are big enough to regularly hunt, like deer? No, because they are all tiny chains of islands. So the Polynesians had a BYOB policy. Bring your own boar, or in the Poi's case, bring your own good boy, along with eating the meat off dem bones. The native Hawaiians would use Poi teeth for some hardcore lay, which might play into these mon having sharp and stony bits popping out from around their necks specifically. Teeth are bones, and bones are just organic rocks, right? Though, on top of being livestock, they were also seen as spiritual protectors of children, linking well to Rockruff again with its good with young trainer tendencies. These dogs being food was really just a bonus. And the story of their extinction is thankfully not a super sad one. Like, they weren't all beaten or eaten to death. Rather, after European and then American settlers started getting involved with Hawaii, their own dogs would breed with the poi, who had rather recessive genes, so this breed was just bred out of existence, essentially. There was a breeding program in the 1960s that tried to bring them back into existence with some minor results, but all in all, it failed pretty hard. And these days, the term poi dog is essentially Hawaiian for mutt, as many Hawaiian mutts do have poi genes somewhere in there, they just don't show. What does show, though, is today's sponsor. So here's a story. I went over to a friend's house and noticed something terribly wrong. It was their mattress. It didn't have a logo from today's sponsor, Helix, on it. It was generic. No! So I thought hard about it and made sure to get them one of Helix's new mattress toppers, and in exchange I got to flop around on their bed and record it, because that's what friends do.
So comfy and cool!
By now I'm sure you've heard of Helix's sleep quiz that matches you and a partner to which of their 20 mattresses best suit your sleep preferences. My wife and I did that 7 years ago, and we got the Helix Midnight Lux and have slept beautifully ever since. But if you already have a mattress and you just want to upgrade it, Helix's all-new mattress topper collection is for you. Easy to unwrap, easy to set up and strap on, and easy to sleep on too. But which topper is for you? The dual comfort topper for couples with very different sleep preferences, the Ergo Align mattress topper for those wanting more midsection support to help with lower back pain, the softer premium memory foam mattress topper for a simple upgrade, or the one I'm showing here, the Helix premium mattress topper with Glaciotex. It feels cool to the touch somehow. I don't understand the science, but it's a cooling cover that wicks away excess body heat, keeping you nice and cool all night. I cannot recommend them enough, especially right now because it's the spring savings event. 20% off site-wide. Visit helixsleep.com/Lockstin, link below, to top your mattress with a new Helix mattress topper. Evolving from a little lapdog to a wolf is funnily the opposite of what happened in real life, but in the context of a monster battling game makes sense. Wolves are intelligent, violent, sharp in both definitions of the word, and beastly. Much better at battling than as a cuddle partner with piddling problems. Again? And it seems the designer's Japanese roots are showing here with Lycanroc. You see, Japan, inside of you there are two wolves, or rather, two wolf yokai. They go by a few names depending on the region. Okuri Inu, meaning escorting dog, Yama Inu, meaning mountain wolf or wild dog, or even the Okami, meaning simply wolf. When in the woods, in the mountains, they stalk you. One of them is voracious and wants to eat you as soon as you show any signs of fatigue. And the other wolf wants to escort you, protect you from the dangers of the forest as you make your journey. The problem is, they are actually the same wolf, and which it does is entirely due to its mood that day, which, that's relatable. I can understand. It does have one tendency always, however. It tends to prefer protecting children and pregnant women, which perhaps links it to this Pokemon line again being good for young trainers. And it being related to mountains, even in name, links up wolves and rocks nicely, as does another related wolf that links up with one of Rockruff's breeds too. Both the poi dog and the Ezo wolf are extinct. Relatively recently, too. During the Meiji Restoration in Japan, Hokkaido, or Ezo wolves, were declared a noxious animal, meaning they were to be exterminated. By the mid-1900s, none were ever seen again. Before their extinction, though, some study was done by zoologists who noted that Ezo wolves were most closely related to North American wolves and generally looked the same, though their, quote, feet are remarkable for their size, 3 or 4 times larger than the feet of the largest dog which they resemble in shape. Their large feet enable them to travel rapidly over deep snow. That makes sense. Hokkaido does have some of the deepest snow on Earth. Like, look at this! That's that Mario Kart track, but real. So when Lycanroc was first revealed and people were like, "Ayo, paws? That big? Ew?" They got their dogs out? No, it's not a bad cartoony thing. That is a feature, not a flaw. It's entirely intentional. And just to double down on the Ezo or Hokkaido wolf being a part of these mon, it's worth noting that the Ainu, those native to Hokkaido, did not differentiate wild wolves from their own domesticated hunting dogs. They were the same animals in their eyes. One is helpful and domesticated, and the other is wild and potentially dangerous, but they were ultimately the same. It was merely a difference in personality that showed in physical form, just like how these Pokemon are both Lycanroc, even though they are pretty different. I mean, they even have different move pools. And like, one is a wolf, the other is a werewolf. So I think it's time to finally talk about that. In short, werewolves, aka lycanthropes, hence the name Lycanroc, are monstrous wolf-human hybrids. I'm sure you know the story. The full moon comes out, and the mostly normal-seeming human transforms. Makes sense that it's the midnight form of Lycanroc then. This ties a bit into Ainu belief as well, as one of their human creation myths is oversimplified as a goddess got freaky with a white wolf, and then out popped the first Ainu. So humans are humanoid goddess/wolf hybrids. Cool, but werewolves go way back, as in all the way back. The Epic of Gilgamesh from 4,000 years ago is considered the earliest known written story, and it's got a dude who turned into a wolf in it. Technically not a werewolf, but the start of the idea. Later, the ancient Greeks would speak of lycanthropes, meaning wolf-human. Lycon, one of the sons of Ares, ate human flesh, and as punishment, Zeus turned him into a lycanthrope. And now listen here, furries. Don't start cannibalizing. Zeus is not real. Smaller examples would pop up now and again, but our more modern idea of what a werewolf is started in the 16th and 17th centuries in Europe and colonial America. Right alongside the witch trials. You know the witch trials, a terrible time for women to be alive. Religious zealots would claim something unprovable about a woman they didn't like for whatever reason. She's a devil worshiper, she's a witch! When really, she just knew that boiling water before using it to treat a wound helps prevent infection. But like, that's knowledge! Knowledge and intelligence are for men! Clearly Satan told her that! And because it's impossible for her to prove that Satan didn't tell her that, she's burned alive at the stake. Tens of thousands of people, mostly women, were killed this way, sometimes dozens at once, and it was always the same types of women. Those who knew too much, refused to sleep with someone in power, or even simply stood up for themselves because being subservient to men was seen as a defining part of womanhood. So if they didn't, well, she's not a woman. She's a witch.
Thankfully, something like this will never happen again.
But at the same time as the witch trials, there were also werewolf trials, and often they were the same. It was said that a witch could use their power of witchiness to turn into a werewolf, or use their wily, womanly, witchy ways to manipulate a wolf to let her ride it. Or ride it. Creating more Ainu. In some parts of Sweden, werewolf trials were actually more common than witch trials, and according to their werewolf lore, a werewolf was barely distinguishable from a regular wolf. The main difference is the eyes were more human, and could perhaps glow, and were overall a bit bigger than a regular wolf. And they were capable of standing up, though usually just a bit, being hunched over for the most part. But that's an easy giveaway, so they rarely did that. And lastly, they had no tail, which might play into why Midnight Lycanroc is notably bigger and has such a significantly shorter tail. It might as well not have one compared to the others. Now, I hate to be the bringer of bad news, but the link between the full moon and werewolves was entirely made up by early Hollywood movies. Aww. I know. They likely just got the idea because the moon was already associated with evil magic and curses and such, as well as the idea that wolves howl at the full moon, which, I hate to be the bringer of bad news, but wolves don't do that. I know. They howl at any time of the day, and they do it as a bonding activity amongst the pack, or to announce that they've almost returned to the rest of the pack. Yeah, the phase of the moon has no effect on the frequency of their howls, as studies have found, and yet this idea of them doing so has existed since ancient times. What likely was happening is, well, before artificial lighting, most people had to be indoors at night, or at least close to home with torches, except for when the moon was full or close to it. At that point, the moon was bright enough enough that you could see the roads decently enough. So more people would be outside doing things, and since this is the time they are mostly outside at night, it was also the time they heard the most distant of wolf howls. So a connection was made. That is actually not true. Still though, the moon is a giant rock in the sky, and now wolves are culturally connected to it, so here is a rock-type wolf Pokemon that can also be more of a werewolf depending on where that rock in the sky is when it evolves. Bringing us to the super rare Dusk form Lycanroc, whom I will always call the Dorito Dog, Dogrito. This form was essentially designed for the anime, hence it not being in Sun and Moon, but rather the later Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon after Ash got it in the anime. Ash's Rockruff evolved exactly when the sun set and flashed green, hence Dusk form having strikingly green eyes, along with appearing like a midday Lycanroc with some midnight elements. Its orange fur is even like the orange skies at dusk. But that green flash though, that is a real phenomenon. It happens at the exact moment of sunrise and sunset, and for less than 2 seconds at that. It happens because of how sunlight refracts through the atmosphere. That last little bit of light bends at a slightly different angle, and because of that extra atmosphere it has to pass through to reach your eyes, its color shifts and appears green. It's easiest to see when looking out at the horizon over a calm ocean, which makes Hawaii, and thus Alola, a perfect place for a Pokemon that utilizes it, since it's completely surrounded by that.
It's also fitting then that Hawaiian natives have their own werewolf of sorts, though calling the monstrous Kaupe a Hawaiian werewolf is more modern shorthand for what it is rather than what it actually is. Supposedly, the original tale is that there was a hairless leader of a cannibal tribe who could turn into a large poi dog and kill people, and his ghost lives on to torment the living as a vicious dog man. But these days, Kaupe is said to be a more monstrous, malevolent spirit that comes out at night to lure people to their deaths, and visually appears as a muscular, hairy man covered in tribal tattoos with the teeth, claws, and keen sense of smell of a vicious carnivore. So yeah, I'm sure you can see how that evolved into Hawaiian Werewolf. Hence its more modern depictions. And bonus fact! Lycanroc's Japanese name, Lagarugan, combines gan, meaning rock, with loup-garou, which is French for werewolf. And notably, French werewolves are a bit special, and not just in France, but the whole Francosphere, meaning France and the areas they have high cultural power and influence over, like Quebec, French Guiana, Louisiana, the various islands throughout the oceans. It was mainly French Louisiana where this unique werewolf lore developed under the name Rougarou, most likely to control Cajun children, and sometimes this type of werewolf is referred to as a Catholic werewolf, because it was French Catholics teaching that not only if you didn't follow the rules of Lent, a werewolf would hunt you down and eat you, but even if you broke Lent 7 years in a row, you would become one. Leave it to the Catholics. We'll tell you anything to control you.
And now, for this next bit, I might be doing the same. Time for a tangential point that would be big if true, but we just don't know for certain. Ashita no Joe is a 1968-71 sports fiction manga series that went on to produce many anime films and series over the decades due to just how well received it was. That does line up to a time to inspire some Game Freak developers as kids. And look at Joe. Now look at Midnight Form Lycanroc. And look at Joe. Now look at Midnight Form Lycanroc. I mean, look, I even found an old Tumblr post from the same time Sun and Moon was new. Brisk Sunrise was definitely onto something, especially given that Midnight and Midday Form Lycanroc have different move pools. I mean, Accel Rock is Lycanroc's signature move, but only Midday and Dusk get it. So what does Midnight Form get instead? Oh, Counter and Reversal. Two fighting type moves that are particularly fitting of this potential connection, seeing that that is one of the things that makes Joe such an exceptional boxer. His street brawling experience full of counters and reversals. Even the spoiler warning for an almost 60-year-old series, even the big final attack at the end of the series was a cross-countering counterpunch, a reversal. And remember, Lycanroc got them extra large paws? Maybe like boxing gloves? One of the main things people loved about the writing of Ashita no Joe is that he's such a morally ambiguous character. He's the hero in some moments, but the villain in others. Though, he does have a soft spot for kids, always protecting them, and that already sounds like both Lycanrocs. But we can also literally take the same dex entries from Midnight form, and they work as perfect descriptions of Joe's personality when boxing too. It's invigorated by powerful opponents, the stronger the better. Reckless, it charges headlong at its opponents, attacking without any care for what injuries it might receive. It goads its enemies into attacking. It has no problem ignoring orders it doesn't like. It doesn't seem to mind getting hurt at all. It will happily sustain injuries for the sake of taking down its opponent. Spoiler warning again? Joe freaking dies after the big final battle he did with a smile on his face. He didn't care about himself at all because he just wanted to take down his opponent. And to clarify, as I'm sure there's weebs in the comments, no, he did not actually die, but he didn't live either. It's purposefully left ambiguous, but does lean on the assumption that he's either dead or at least brain dead. Olivia is the kahuna of Akala Island, a rock-type specialist who uses Midnight Lycanroc in the games, but Midday Lycanroc in the anime. Cool. And I don't say this often because it's a naughty word, but dang! I understand Brock on a much deeper level now, because this could start a cult. They really did deserve to be together, and I'm sad it was just a fling. While it took a few generations for English translators to notice and implement this, all human Pokemon characters are named after plants in Japanese, where her name is actually just Lychee, which is very fitting because the pink and slightly pinkish white of her outfit is literally the color of lychee fruit. But her English name is really smart, as it not only refers to a plant, Elixia oliviformis, which is a flowering plant in the Dogbane family, fitting as her ace Pokemon is a dog, and plus the plant's berries look a lot like the beads on her necklace, but her name also can refer to olivine, a very common rock found just under the Earth's crust, as it is the primary component of the Earth's upper mantle. But it weathers away relatively quickly for a rock when on the surface. But seeing that Hawaii and thus Alola has quite a few active volcanoes, yeah, there's a lot of olivine here, which when gem quality is called peridot or peridot because French word. The French again. Pure peridot can range from a deep olive green to a yellow green, which I guess is still olive green because olives are colors. However, it's more common for it to be partially gem quality rather than pure, and here it can shift into slight blue-green territory. The green bracelets and gems Olivia has here are definitely olivine, especially given the spiritual crystal powers associated with the stone, which, yeah, Olivia would be a crystal girly, wouldn't she? Olivine has been prized for thousands of years for the belief in its protective powers that are said to drive away fears and nightmares and to sharpen your mind, opening it to be more aware and to help you realize your destiny, which explains her high confidence. According to Sun and Moon's website, her skill is extraordinary, as can only be expected from someone chosen to serve as a kahuna at such a young age. Yet, she still insists that she is just a normal girl. She saw her destiny at a young age and chased it. But let's back up to Dogbane. Elixia oliviformis is Hawaii's native dogbane plant, and this family of plants is called that because it is toxic to dogs. Thus, dogs hate it. In medieval times, it was called dog slayer even, and was used to make poisons for strays, and was planted around some villages to ward off wolves and, of course, werewolves. Being able to ward them off is sort of like controlling them, like Olivia controlling her own Midnight Lycanroc, but if not that specifically, it's at least another linking factor from werewolves to Olivia. Now, given that Alola's variety of Pokemon shows that it's not based just on Hawaii, but Oceania as a whole, perhaps even as broadly as Austronesia, Olivia appears to be Melanesian, especially considering that traditional Melanesian garb features a lot of beads, straps, and accessories, even compared to other Pacific Islanders. And this works as a connector potentially too. Melanesia's post-colonial states were among the most Christian per capita in the world in the 20th century, perhaps linking to those Catholic werewolves again. And speaking of rock type, so rocks, mining is a surprisingly huge industry here. Despite being relatively small, New Guinea alone has 3 of the world's largest open-cut gold and copper mines, owned by foreign multinational companies, of course, creating huge scars in the earth since they don't have to worry about as many environmental regulations, and of course inciting a small civil war to get their way over the people, sort of forcing the sale. And they killed a lot of protesters after the fact too. Ethnocide.
There's just something about European colonizers use religion to pacify the natives and then take their resources that the writers of world history seem to really enjoy. I am starting to get a bit tired of that trope though. Oh gosh, and how do I even end the video from here now? Like, on a low note. Like, learning is really cool, but gosh, is it sad sometimes. I regret knowing, and yet, it is important to know. On a fun and lighter note though, tell me down below which your favorite form of Lycanroc is. Are you an edgelord or a traditionalist? In either case, you're probably a furry. Never stop using your noggin.